Hello, good evening, Matilde. How are you? How do you feel tonight?
Good, good.
Good, that's great to know. Please, we have to continue working. We are on the fifth day of class, and I'm giving this reminder because we have 3 more classes to finish with everything. All right. And again, just a few pieces of advice related to working on Pearson. This week we're going to complete everything, all the lessons that we got. We're going to try to work at least these last days with this element that I showed you in the previous class, right? That's the reading, well, the reading practice. And well, that's it, okay? So if you get to have any questions about anything, remember, please, you have to let me know, because after that last class, we're not going to be in touch with these classes anymore. So it's important that everything is clear, at least related to Pearson and to the classes that we are having here. Okay, so I don't know if you have any questions or anything before starting with today's class, Matilde. Let me know, please.
Yeah, actually, two things. Well, with Pearson, it didn't work. It showed, oh, it was like inactive or something like that. So I wrote to management and they switch codes or something. I don't know. I mean, I have a new username, and she told me that I should ask again for the code in order to have access again because it wasn't working.
All right. Yes, yes, of course. Actually, are you there with your username and everything? Okay, so
Yes.
give me please 1 minute. I'm going to give you the code now. All right, give me a second, the ID.
I think it's now that I see it, I think it's I have the green button. I mean, it is a new username, but I don't have um, assignments. So
Perhaps you have the product, but you are not in the course yet, or try to look for it. Try to go to courses or try to see when you are in the course section, you see the courses you are in, and you should look the one with my name and the one that started not that long ago, because if this is 8, 12, 16, so perhaps it was April something or the beginning of May actually, right? Between the first days of May and midterm, we should have a date like that. If you find it, that's great. If not, I'm going to give you the ID here anyways.
okay. Um, No, I cannot find it. Over 22.
All right, now I need to see which one it was. 31st May, April, no, that's too much. 11th May. I believe that this is the one. Do you remember what was your, or are you still using the same? No, it was this one, right? Student 73. This was your past username, right?
Yes, it was, but now I'm just 7, student 7.
Okay, okay. No worries, because if I know that this is the one, I have the access codes over here. All right, so there you go. Please let me know if you're able to join. Remember, this is a new account, so you shouldn't transfer anything because actually you don't have information with that one. And you're going to let me know. Actually, I want to see if I have information with this username. But as you're joining, also let me know if you have any problems by joining, so I can assign or reassign what's left for this week. Okay, I see that you're in the course now. Now we're going to see if we have to reassign this entirely. Yes, so we're going to work with Model C one more time, okay, because we have everything else. Yes, so I have all the information, no worries about that. It's just Model C that I'm now going to assign just to student 7. And well, actually, I'm going to be doing this now, all right, because again, I have to do it in front of, well, this recording. And as I'm doing it, please, Matilde, we have to work with something. But actually, before that, I don't know if you have any other questions or requirements, perhaps related to Pearson or the course before starting practicing a little bit. Let me know, please. Your mic is off now, Matilde.
Sorry, sorry. Yes, I was trying to find the recording again because, well, the time you sent it last Friday, I was on my phone, so I couldn't save it. But I did open it from our classroom, but I think it wasn't my recordings. I think it was someone else's.
Okay, yes, perhaps we use that one. Yes, because I'm not updating now because it was very different, all right, some months ago. Now, as I have this course just for 8 days, I don't update that part. I just give it once to the student. So yes, I'm going to also give you that, all right? And actually, that's going to be faster. Let me give you that first so that you have access to that, all right? Give me please 1 second. Okay, it is in the chat. Let me know, please, if you can access without any problems and if you find the material, because not everything is in the video section. You have to go sometimes to live because as we stream all classes, they are saved over there. All right, unless management edits the video and they add these details, they sometimes appear in video. But most of the time, they are going to be live.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, no worries. So good. Again, as I'm reassigning this part, let me know, please, Matilde. Is there anything else that you want to ask or let me know, please? What do you say? Is there anything else?
No, it's okay. It was, yeah, just that.
Okay, good. Now, again, we're going to take advantage because actually, no, let's work with this because we need to cover the lessons first. We have to cover something that is called passive models. All right, we covered passive voice, right? So before going to passive models, let's remember about passive voice. How can you define what passive voice is in English, Matilde?
Okay. Well, when you are, well, there's active voice when I include, yeah, the person who's saying, yeah, the sentence, or I could use passive voice when I'm trying to emphasize not really on the person, but more on the action. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but yeah, I'm not emphasizing on the person who's behind the idea or the action.
Good, that's correct. What rules do you remember that we have for passive voice to make this change, right, of focusing on something different that is not the subject? So to give it all to the object, what are the changes that we have to make? And what are the rules, perhaps, or the details that we have to take into account to make the change from active voice to passive voice? What do you say?
Okay, let me think. Well, I mean, the tense changes. So if the active voice is saying something in present, the passive voice, I mean, that would change. If it's present, I should change to past, and past to past perfect. With can, could, and yeah, so on. And what else? Yeah, I don't remember more rules.
And that one, I want to be sure because in actually in passive voice, right, we have to keep the same tense, right? At least and the
I think
tense, right? Yeah,
yeah,
tell me.
I'm thinking of something else, I think, right?
Yeah, that's related to what we called indirect speech.
Yeah, yes,
All
I was
right,
thinking.
or reported speech, exactly. Uh-huh. But in passive voice, all right, you were given the explanation, and it's great, right? You were comparing active voice to passive voice. But what do we keep it? Or actually, let's try to give one example. Give me, please, one example. It can be a simple one in which you have a subject and an object so that we can invert the roles that they have. So, what example can you give me, Matilde?
Yeah, I was thinking, yeah, I mix the ideas. Or already in passive voice or just
Just active first. How to see the changes and to see if we are following the rules that we got over there.
okay. Um, like she well, she cleaned the house.
Okay, yes, that's a simple one and it is great. We have subject and an object, so it is possible to make the change, right? One more time, please. I don't remember very well the tense. What is the tense of that sentence? One more time.
She cleaned the house.
Will it be cleaned or cleans? Which one is it?
She cleaned.
Okay, cleaned. Now, what is the change from active to passive in that case?
The house was clean. Was cleaned by her.
Okay, yes, a very simple one, right? Now let's change the active voice from simple past to another tense. What tense can you use? The same example, just changing the tense. What do you say?
Uh,
What?
she has cleaned the house.
All right, and the passive voice of that one?
The house has been cleaned. Has been cleaned by her.
Exactly. Okay. Yes, you got it. All right. I just wanted to verify that. It means that the only rules that we got to follow, right, are related to exchanging, right, the order of subject object. The object becomes the subject and vice versa. And we always keep the same tense, right, in active voice to passive voice. But as you mentioned and you did, the thing that keeps the tense is not the main verb, right? Because the main verb is always going to be past participle, right? What changes and what keeps actually the tense is the verb to be, right? Was, were, has been, have been, had been, will be, and so on and so forth, right? That's again important to remember and important to take into account. But that's passive voice. That's like the general rule or general rules for passive voice. Now, we have to see this is way easier, and actually it's not adding anything new, and it is models, passive models. So what do you think we can see or we are going to see with passive models, Matilde? When do we use passive models, or what do you know about it?
Um, I mean, including like, I mean, yeah, the models like may, might, could.
Exactly. Any model that you can think of can be used in passive voice, right?
Yeah.
So do you believe that there's a special reason why we have to use or we can use passive voice of certain models?
Mm, I mean, to include, well, in some cases, like the possibility of something.
Okay, yes. So if you're talking about possibility, what models are you including in that explanation? What models do we use for possibility?
May, may, might.
Exactly. May, might, and perhaps also could, right? Yes. So actually, right as you are saying, it is going to depend on the model, right? The reason why you want to use that in passive voice depends on what's the meaning of that specific model. And again, that's very simple. So just to work over here, we're going to try to by the way, I assigned everything. All right, so you should have access to all those assignments, the quizzes, and the final test. As we had this detail, and it was a technical issue actually because they should have all right work on that before. We are going to have until Sunday, all right, to try to finish everything. Let's try to do it until that date because, as I told you, perhaps they are going to ask for the grades before, but I'm going to mention this inconvenience. So I don't believe there's going to be a problem to have it until Sunday, okay, 11:59 p.m. So I can, give them everything for, or even by Monday. So I don't know if you have any questions about that before getting into the lesson now.
No, no question. That's great.
Okay, good. Now, how can you reply this question over here, Matilde? When could the exam be taken?
Um, exam. I mean, I just made up any answer. The,
Yes, anything that comes to your mind that, of course, just follow the grammatical structure that we have to use. And if it makes sense, yes, great.
okay, so the exam could be taken tomorrow morning.
Okay, good. Now, why is it a good idea to ask this question in passive voice? What is the active voice of this question, Matilde?
Um,
We don't have here the agent, so actually you have to make up, right, something, and you have to give me any agent that you can think of.
okay. Um, like the teacher could. When could the teacher take the exam?
Yes, yes, but in that case, remember, if you're saying the teacher taking the test, is because the teacher, right, has to, I don't know, right, pass something in a specific or is part of the procedure that he has to follow, right? But if you analyze, mainly we use here passive voice because in most of the cases we can like say that it's an understanding, all right? That it is going to be a student or it is going to be, of course, an examinee that is going to be evaluated or it is going to be taken the test, right? So again, if it is implied over there, if we can say that, yes, I understand that if we ask when could the exam be taken, we are talking about an agent that can be a group of students, of examinees, of people, right, that want to take that exam, right? And we don't have to necessarily mention that group, right? And we can just pay attention to the exam itself because in this exact case, that's the most important element, right? So that's one. We got to read briefly. We didn't pay a lot of attention to that, Matilde, in that class, to the because I just made you read and read and read, and we finished the class. But I don't know if you remember some of the reasons why we use passive voice. We read that quickly, but do you remember some of those reasons?
I think so. Well, when mentioning the agent is not important. Um, yeah, when I'm trying to emphasize on more on the fact or the object. What else? Yeah, I don't remember more, but
Okay. Yes, yes, those are the two most important elements. We can add some ideas to that. Remember that, for example, right, you are part of the government, right, and someone makes a mistake, and that mistake can be seen by anybody, right, around the country even. So, in those cases, right, when you don't want to mention the person who made that mistake, because you're protecting, right, the identity or something like that, right? Again, in order not to mention someone when something bad or a bad decision was made, we can use passive voice, right? And we can say bad decisions were made, but we are going to keep going and we're going to solve that problem and something like that, right? Also remember that it can be when you have an agent that is a general agent. I mean, everybody knows who you're talking about or what group you're talking about, and there's no need, right, to be specific about that agent because actually it's too general, too common that or actually it is not worth mentioning that agent, right? Again, for general messages as well, right? In advertisements, TV commercials, sometimes, right? We can use passive voice and we don't need to mention the agent because we know who we are referring to. All right, but again, we have many different reasons, but they are related always to the same idea of avoiding the mentioning of the agent. Okay, so here we have the two cases, and actually this is related to one of those elements. Here, of course, we don't want to mention the agent in the first one, but what do you think the explanation is, Matilde? When you say the exam may be suspended and the teacher may suspend the exam, why do you think that some people rather use the first form besides the explanation of just paying attention to the object? What do you say? What is a possible good reason to apply the passive voice here?
hmm. Well, yeah, I mean it's the the subject. I mean the agent is not that important. For the people who are taking the exam, they're interested on the exam, not really on the teacher, I guess. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, you're on the right track because actually here, right, we can simply say as well that we can understand that obviously the one that can, not always, right, but most of the time, it is going to be the teacher that may or may not suspend the test or the exam, right? So again, it's something that we can understand that doesn't have to be said, but we know that it can be obvious, right? And it's not necessary because we understand that being the teacher or anybody else, the idea here, as you said, it is that the exam may be suspended and not who is doing this action, right? So again, it's just like that. I'm going around that idea so that we can remember, because again, besides that, actually, we don't have a lot more to see over here. We are just going to read not these examples actually, but actually, yes, the last two examples, please, about the police, Matilde. This one, and this short explanation afterwards, please.
Okay. The police might arrest her for what she did. Active. She might be arrested for what she did. Passive. We know that, of course, the police is in charge of arresting people most of the time, so the passive voice could be the best option to avoid that unnecessary information.
All right, thank you. Right, so the same logic again. We understand that it is the police that can arrest that person, right? Of course, there can be other groups, other entities that can be in charge of that, but mainly we know that we're talking about the police doing that action. So, all right, again, an understanding that doesn't need to be over explained. Now, we know the structure very well. We have the receiver of the action. We have any model, right? Can, could, may, might, must, should, and so on. The verb to be that changes according to the tense, the verb in the past participle, and any complement that, as always, is optional, right? We have this now. We know that we use the models and they have a specific meaning or purpose, right, to be used. Now, there's one that I want to practice now, that is could, because could can have two possible meanings, right? Past ability and future or present possibility, right? Two possible meanings. So let's work on two examples with that, please, Matilde. What passive voice can you give me with could as past ability and with could as future possibility? And in both cases, let's use the passive voice. So what do you say? What example comes to your mind?
Okay. Mm, the new furniture. No. Um, I don't know. I don't have any ideas right now.
Yes, in this one, you can try to think again, as in could for possibility. We know that when we talk about ability, we can think of musical instruments, right? We can think of an activity, something that, of course, you need to learn, right, to do. And here, of course, you are going to mention that first, right? That thing that you learned to do, and or that object or instrument that you know or you knew how to play, right? For example, in that case, you can say that piano, right, could be played by, right, all the students in that conservatory. All right, and you can say that many years ago. All right, that piano could be played years ago by all the students in that conservatory, right? But nowadays it's not possible because I don't know, right? Something happened to it. All right, that's one possible example. And for future, there you have even, right, more options, because as it is possibility, it can be absolutely anything, right? You were talking about furniture, so you can say not new. I was thinking of something. You can say, right, that the furniture could be restored, right, by, I don't know, and you mentioned someone, right? And as this is possibility, you can mention a future time reference, right? So this furniture could be restored by, I don't know, any person next week. All right. And again, in that case, you're mentioning could as possibility. All right. So with that logic, again, just try to think of one. What could it be? It could be past ability or future possibility. What comes to your mind, Matilde?
Okay. Mm, yeah, well, I was thinking about the furniture example. I was trying to say, like, the furniture was placed, but then I didn't have the could part, so could have been placed.
Yes, that's still passive. Uh-huh. We are working with even perfect models over there, and that's the passive voice of the perfect model. So it is correct. Uh-huh. Here we're just taking a look at models, but you can work with perfect models with no problem. Mhm.
Okay, so yeah, okay, that's great. So the furniture could have been placed in my new house.
Okay, yes. And in that case, just remember that now we're not talking about a future or present possibility. It is what we call a past possibility, right? Something that could have been done, but it was not, right? Because of a certain reason. And you cannot change that, but you're just thinking of the possibilities of what it could have been done, right? So yes, it is correct. And again, if you do that, you can do it with all the models over here. But of course, some of them are going to change a little bit in meaning, right? Remember that must in past, more than obligation, it is going to be like a conclusion, right? A very strong conclusion about something that happened in the past. So we have to be careful with that. And should also works with advice, but remember again that it is past advice or mainly regrets, right? So by changing from models to perfect models, we can have those little changes, but if we take that into account, it is possible to do it as you did it, and it's great. So good. I don't know if you have any questions up to this part. Again, we don't have anything new, but just in case, Matilde, any questions or comments, let me know, please.
Mm, no, I don't think so.
All right,
Yeah.
good. So here you have the passive voice of just common and standard models. It means they are just present or future in most of the cases, and we only use the verb to be in the base verb, right? That's way easier. But again, as you did, you can use the perfect model as well, and it is going to work very well. Now, here we have again this that I would like to remember a little bit. So we're going to read this, please, Matilde. Let's read this slide.
Okay. When is it a good idea to focus on the receiver of the action? Sorry. When we don't want to mention the performer of the action and agent from now on. Example, the new book might be published. When the message we want to convey doesn't need that information, the quiz can be assigned. when the agent did something wrong and it is not worth mentioning him, her, it, a mistake could be made. When we want to be formal in some contexts, these kind of animals can be found in these places.
Okay, good. So here we have four out of the, more or less we have like eight possible situations, but some of them are pretty repetitive. So I would say that these four are the main reasons why we can use passive voice. All right. And we have this that you know pretty well. If you want to mention the agent, you know that you have to use by, right? That's pretty simple. So up to that part. And look, right now, this is going to be the lesson. We have the time to finish everything, more than enough. Because if we take a look at the lessons that we have to cover, we still have this. I told you this is the fifth, right? We have the seventh, eighth, and eighth class. So we have four more elements that we're going to cover. No, sorry. We have three more. So one per day. Yes, that's more than enough. So to me, that's going to be it. Now, in these 15 minutes, I want to work once again, please, Matilde, on this reading exercise that we were working on last class. So once again, I don't know if you have any questions before going to the practice for the reading part. Let me know, please.
No, no questions.
All right, good. So we're going to go back to our paper and we're going to keep working on it. Now remember, as you are on your computer now, I need you to have, right, any browser over there with you. If you have a dictionary that you use a lot, try to have it open over there. Again, it's good if you use Oxford or Cambridge. Cambridge sometimes it's a very good option, right? Because it has a lot of things over there. Why? Because when you get to see a word that is going to be new, I'm going to ask you to read the definition. All right, so it is pretty clear and we can use that in context and understand that better. All right, so let me know when you're ready with that open so that we can continue reading, please,
Matilde. I'm ready. Yeah, I'm ready.
Good. So this is not a complete paragraph, but let's read everything that you see over here, please.
Okay. In the last decade, a growing body of longitudinal neuroimaging research has demonstrated that adolescence is a period of continued brain growth and change, challenging long-standing assumptions that the brain was largely finished maturity by puberty. The frontal lobes, home to key components of the neural circuitry underlying executive functions such as planning, working memory, and impulse control, are among the last areas of the brain to mature. They may not be fully developed until halfway through the third decade of life. This finding has prompted interest in linking stage of neuromaturation to maturity of judgment. Indeed, the promise of biological explanation for often puzzling adolescent health risk behavior has captured the attention of the media, parents, policymakers, and clinicians alike. Although such research is currently underway, many neuroscientists argue that empirical support for a causal, I think is in the next, causal relationship between neuromaturational processes and real-world behavior is currently lacking.
Good. We're going to go up most of the part, and the most important part actually it is over here. Thank you. Now, once again, first, if you have a couple of words or just a word that you want to see if you understand the meaning entirely, we can go and look for the meaning. So what do you say? Is there any word or any words that you want to look up now in the dictionary that you got there or the browser, let me know, please.
Let me check. I mean, yeah, I mean longitudinal neuroimaging, but I think I wouldn't know that even in Spanish, so I don't think that's
Okay.
necessarily. Yeah, because I
Okay.
think I would know how to translate that, but I don't know what that means. So yeah.
Okay, but perhaps just to understand the explanation, and remember, not the translation, but to take a look at the meaning. So actually, let's look, all right? Look for what's that one, all right? The longitudinal neuroimaging, and we're going to understand at least what it refers to, because I believe that at least neuroimaging is going to make you understand, right, that in a way better way, and the techniques, because there's at least one that is very well known for everybody, and you're going to recognize what it can be. And longitudinal, right, is a type of research. So actually, if you're going to look for something, you can look separately. You can look what a longitudinal research is, and then neuroimaging, that is the technique that they use as part of that research. Okay, let me know what you find, please. And you're reading, Matilde. We're going to see if that's the right meaning, because remember, sometimes we have a lot of meanings and it's not good for the context that we have here.
Okay. So I put neuroimaging in the Cambridge Dictionary, but I think it's the beta something, so it only shows examples.
So let's try. Sometimes even, not every time, but sometimes just Google by itself can show very interesting definitions. So let's try it only neuroimaging definition, and perhaps Google is going to show you a better option or more definitions over there. Let's see if it works.
Okay. Neuroimaging, the process of producing images of the structure or activity of the brain or other part of the nervous system by techniques such as magnetic resonance imaging or computerized tomography.
Okay, good, good. So I'm sure, right, that you were perhaps familiar to it, but those two techniques are the most well-known neuroimaging techniques, right? The resonance, right, magnetic resonance, and the computerized tomography, because you know that if you have an accident, for example, or you feel that something's wrong right up there, you have to go right to the doctor, and perhaps he's going to ask you for some studies to see if you have anything over there, right? So yes, good. Now, you can be looking for the second one, that is longitudinal research, but I'm going to be telling you about it, so that we can now think on something more important, that is the paragraph by itself. All right. So that is the type of research, right? You have a lot of different types of research. Longitudinal is one, for example, actually I was working on that type of study, is when you are going to be studying a phenomenon for a specific period of time, but it has to be a kind of long period of time. Right? For example, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. The most important ones are at least longer than 1 year, right? And you see the evolution of something. and you see if there is going to be right coherence, there is going to be logic and sense on all the results you're going to find out throughout that period of time, right? For example, if you're studying, I don't know, right here, this actually the brain, right, of adolescents, then you have to do that for a long period of time to know that it's just not something that you get to find in one group and at one specific time, but you can find it right along that time that you are studying that phenomenon. All right. So again, the explanation can be better. I believe that you can find a very good and a short explanation about it, but it is mainly related to that. Okay. So if we understand now, they are talking about a type of study because they want to study the adolescent's brain, right? By using these techniques, neuroimaging. So they are going to be using those two techniques. I'm pretty sure of it, or well, subcategories of those techniques to understand and to see the changes in the brain, right? They are going to see, for example, I believe that here, I don't know if they mentioned the time, no, they didn't, right? But to understand the maturity of the brain, they have to at least write a study, I don't know, perhaps for 5 years, that's minimum, to see how the brain changed, right? In that time, let's say from the 25th year to the 30th, right? And now, and that's it. I have now some questions over here as you are scanning the information, Matilde, and it's related to that. They are mentioning a different age over here when they talk about the maturity of the brain. What is that new reference that we have? In the first part, they were talking about the 20s, right? After the 20s. What are we talking about here in this case?
You mean in the part, where was it? Like it may not be fully developed until halfway through the third decade of life.
Exactly, right? So what is that information telling us? Because remember, you need to be able to say that in different words because that's what the TOEFL is going to do. They are going to show you a lot of options and they are going to be paraphrased. So how can you paraphrase that information?
That is not fully developed until halfway through the third decade. Yeah. This is a tricky one. I mean, that
Uh-huh.
they
And to
may not be
understand that,
fully, no, I think I got it. They may not be fully developed until around the 25th, 25 years.
yes, correct. Uh-huh. And what? What is it not going to be fully developed until you are more or less 25 years old?
The functions such as planning, working memory, impulse control, and those functions.
Okay, good, exactly. Uh-huh, good. There you go. Right? So they are showing this type of information. It's important to see that over there. Now, if I ask you, because actually the main thing is over there, what are three things that you can, all right, highlight from this paragraph? Just three things that you believe that can be the main ideas. Because one thing that you are also going to do, I'm trying to show you all the things that you have to do, is to organize in terms of priority the ideas inside the entire reading or just one paragraph. Okay, and they are going to give you separate sentences. They can be complex or simple sentences, and you have to organize them in terms again of how important they are. So, what do you see? What three ideas do you believe are important over here? And among those three, which one do you believe is the most important?
Okay. Well, I would say that adolescence is a period of continued brain growth and change. That one.
Good, that's one idea. Great, seems pretty important. Yes, that's one.
And well, the frontal lobe is not fully developed until halfway through the third decade of life.
Yes, great, very good. And
Uh,
just one more.
um, yeah, well, the prompt interest of this from the actors that it is mentioned in the below part.
Okay, one more time, please.
Yeah, sorry. The interest of neuromatter, yeah, has from interest in linking stage of neuromaturation, maturity of judgment. Yeah,
Okay.
the interest, because down below it mentions who is, yeah, who are the ones who are interested.
Good. Yes, those are three very important ideas. And if I ask you, right, as I said at the beginning, which one of those three is the most important over there? And again, that's perhaps going to be the most important in this paragraph, and perhaps one of the most important ones in the entire article. So, what do you say? Which one would you choose as the number one?
The first one I would.
All right. The first one, yours was related to the brain, right? Continuously growing and changing, right? Okay, good, good. We can relate these two. I will be having these two as very important ones. Hard to decide, but yes, I agree that this is right indeed something pretty important. Now, to see if that's going to be the case again, we're going to just use please a couple of extra minutes. We're going to read this paragraph. We're not going to analyze it entirely. Let's just read it, please, to see which one of those ideas is going to receive more of right attention from the paper. And perhaps there we're going to see which one can be more important. So this paragraph, please, Matilde, just read it and see if we have one of those ideas that you mentioned being supported here.
Despite the lack of empirical evidence, there has been increasing pressure to bring adolescent brain research to bear on adolescent health and welfare policy. For example, in the policy process, adolescent brain immaturity has been used to make the case that teens should be considered less culpable for crimes they commit. However, parallel logic has been used to argue that teens are insufficiently mature to make autonomous choices about their reproductive health. Yeah, reproductive health. This apparently conflicting use of neuroscience research evidence highlights the need for brain scientists, neurocognitive psychologists, and adolescent health professionals to work together to ensure appropriate translation of science for policy. Failing to proactively define or engage in a discussion about the role of neuroimaging research in policy may catalyze a course of action many adolescent health professionals would not endorse.
Okay, thank you very much. So again, in order to be finishing, how do you relate this paragraph to the previous one? And which one of those three ideas, not only one, perhaps it can be the three of them, is more related to this continuation. I mean, what's the logic? What's the thing that they are trying to show by showing that first paragraph, then this one over here? What do you say? What's the point that they are showing?
Well, in this one, I think they're yeah emphasizing more in the policy part of the study and how the study should reflect policy making. So I think it was in the last part of the previous paragraph that they mentioned the policymakers part, if I'm not wrong.
Okay, good, good. It means then that perhaps we have to, all right, link some of those ideas to make one that involves the not the three, but at least two of the elements that you mentioned before, right? Why? Because they are mentioning that, and just to finish now, and they are talking about the maturity, right, of adolescent brain. And that's related also to the idea, right, of not being fully developed until the 25th year of life, right? It means again that once again, we have to rethink, right, policies because of this, right, information about how the brain needs more time than we thought to fully, right, be developed. And remember that once again, and to finish, and you're going to tell me please your final thoughts, Matilde, as we have these elements maturing close to the 30, all right, year of life, planning, working memory, impulse control, all right, those can be very important elements actually in decision making, right? If you're impulsive, it's again according to science, of course this is never right in science 100% for everybody, but in theory, if you are impulsive, if you are not good at planning what you're doing, right, they of course have to rethink how many decisions, right, you can make and how important they can be, right, as part of society and everything and so on, right? So once again, yes, I agree, the last one is being supported, but it is only supported if we take into account the first two elements that you showed, right? And mainly even perhaps more than this, because this is a fact, but it will be the idea of having a specific age that is over here, right? A specific age that can give, right, politicians, social activists, and people in general, right, the tool to say, yes, but because of this, we cannot give access to this group of people until this age, right? Because it is like this and like that and like that, right? So again, I'm just showing that at the end, it seems that those two ideas are very well connected. The idea of the brain growing is underlying everything, but the two ideas, right, of the brain maturing and the policies, right, as a result of that, they are even better connected than the third one. Okay, but just that one. I don't know if you have any comments, questions, or anything about this before finishing, Matilda. Let me know, please.
No, no questions. That's
All
good.
right. Good. So again, please, you have to keep working on this. We're going to try to, we don't have a lot of classes left, but we're going to try to work either at least one more paragraph over here, or we're going to go to the other articles. And again, the idea here is, right, trying to practice this skill and try to understand this in the way perhaps they are going to make you or write some questions or make you understand that in the TOEFL test. But that's it. If you don't have any more questions or anything else, I'm sharing the poll over there, Matilde, for you to fill in it. And that will be it. Please, you're going to let me know if you got to receive everything on Pearson. All right, just in case, take a look at that you can complete, that you don't have problems with your new account, so I can consider that. All right. So that's it. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you. Good night. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Good night.